Welcome to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Picture yourself standing in a narrow trench carved into Belgian mud, the air thick with cordite and, well, the stench of decay. Every sound you make, the scrape of a boot, the clink of a canteen, the whispered order, could betray your position to an enemy listening post just 200 yards away. The Symphony of Silence. The Western Front was a paradox of noise. Artillery thundered day and night, creating what German soldiers called Trommelfeuer, drumfire, a rolling barrage that sounded like thunder just, consuming the earth. Yet within this chaos, British, French and German forces learned to weaponize silence and harness noise. Seasoned soldiers discovered that the constant rumble of distant guns created acoustic cover, a wall of sound behind which they could move supplies, rotate troops, and prepare for raids. Quartermasters timing their movements knew that bringing up ammunition during a bombardment meant the rattle of wooden crates and the squelch of boots through mud would vanish beneath the artillery's roar. This wasn't doctrine written in training manuals. It was hard-won knowledge, passed whisper to whisper in dugouts lit by guttering candles. The rhythm of the guns became a clock by which veterans measured their days. They learned to distinguish between harassing fire and genuine barrages, and, between the crack of field guns and the deeper rumble of heavy howitzers. Smart officers scheduled work parties to coincide with predicted bombardments, actually using the enemy's own firepower as cover. When ration parties moved forward from reserve trenches, they often waited for the nightly exchange of shells that erupted like clockwork along quiet sectors. This way, the percussion waves could swallow the sound of 50 men shuffling through communication trenches with hot food and rum jars. Beneath no man's land, a different war unfolded in absolute darkness. Tunneling companies, sappers from coal-mining towns who volunteered to fight underground, engaged in the most nerve-wracking acoustic warfare imaginable. These men carved galleries toward enemy lines, sometimes working within feet of German tunnelers doing the same. They used specialized geophones, primitive listening devices pressed against tunnel walls, to detect the vibration of enemy picks. The work demanded supernatural quiet. Tunnelers wrapped their tools in cloth, communicated through hand signals, and sometimes worked barefoot to avoid the telltale sound of hobnailed boots on wooden duckboards. When British listener William Hackett detected enemy digging, he would freeze, hand raised, and his entire crew would just hold their breath, waiting to determine if they were the hunters or the hunted. In these claustrophobic galleries, men developed almost superhuman acoustic sensitivity. They could, distinguish between the sound of their own tunnel settling and enemy activity. They learned to identify different types of digging tools by their acoustic signature alone. The scrape of a German spade, for instance, differed from the ring of a British pick. This underground war claimed fewer lives than the surface battle, but the psychological toll was immense, knowing that discovery meant being buried alive under tons of chalk and clay, or worse yet, hearing the enemy pack explosives into a chamber wall just feet away. Survival in the trenches demanded improvisational genius. Soldiers learned that sandbags, initially used for protection from shrapnel, also deadened the echo of voices in communication trenches. Dugouts were reinforced with scavenged timber and corrugated iron, creating spaces where officers could brief raiding parties without sound carrying across no man's land. Before dawn attacks, men rubbed mud on metal equipment to prevent telltale glints and sounds. They learned to move during the stand-to, when both sides manned their fire steps at dawn and dusk, using the rustle of thousands of men preparing for potential attack as cover for their own movements. Night patrols embodied acoustic fieldcraft at its finest. Scouts crawled into no man's land, carrying nothing that could rattle or shine, their faces blackened with burnt cork, moving with the patience of stalking predators. They navigated by memory and starlight, pausing at every shell crater to listen. The crack of a distant rifle, the flutter of signal flares, the grinding of barbed wire against itself. Every sound told a story to those trained to hear it. These forgotten techniques remind us that survival has always demanded awareness of our environment, our impact upon it, and, well, the vigilance of those who wish us harm. The soldier, who mastered sound in the trenches, shares common ground with the modern survivalist, who understands that noise discipline can mean the difference between being found and staying hidden. Subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and share this journey through history's hardest-won lessons. In remembering how they survived, we learn how we might endure. Fieldcraft Chronicles.